ahora estaba cerrado.
Mejor abre a las 10.
Más bien. Ahora me pongo un poco cerca y ya está. Y también cerca de ella. Ok, please. We go.
William, have the volume a little bit higher,
Yes,
please?
yes, yes. Outside, but I want to shout inside of the hotel. Outside, I will. That's right. Well, let's go outside, please. First. Vamos para la derecha y a Zocodo. Ver, aquí con cuidado. Vamos. Vale. Ahí, claro. Ayúdala entonces por... Sí, pero luego allí no hay para bajar. Vale, pues ayúdala un poco por aquí, sí. Okay, well, today we'll do the first part on the northern section of Toledo. Starting here almost at the highest point of the city, almost. That means that from here we'll go down, but not really, because first will be a little bit more high. We arrive to the highest point of the city next to the former palace. And then, yes, the main square, continue going down to the, closer to the city walls. Huh? Well, let's start working, please. Now as we'll walk, we'll talk a little bit about this old town, Toledo. Toledo is one of the oldest of the cities of Spain, with more than 3,000 years of history. Toledo with more than 3,000 years. Since the Bronze period, there were some people living here, but there is not a date of foundation of Toledo. There are just archaeological remains that prove that there were some inhabitants here on those times, let's say about 3,000 years ago. And then the Romans, Visigoths, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and for all of them, this city has been very important. Why? Because of two reasons. If you look for Toledo in a map of Spain, you see that we are almost in the center. So the same distance to go to the north, south, east, or west to control the whole kingdom. For the center, it's the best location. And the other reason that we'll see tomorrow with the bus, Toledo is almost an island. This is a mountain, and a small mountain, on three sides, surrounded and protected by water and by hills. So we'll see tomorrow. There's a car behind of you. Be careful. Come at one side of the right side of the street. So the river that we'll see tomorrow, the Tagus River, the river that ends in Lisbon. So the river that comes here protects three sides of Toledo. So natural protection of the city that actually was the capital of the kingdom. Before Madrid, we've been in Madrid already. We've seen the Royal Palace in Madrid, Royal Palace in Aranjuez, but before all of that, the palaces were here. This was the capital. This used to be the capital before the year 1561. That's why when visitors come here, we talk about the history until that year, until 1500s, until 1561. In Madrid, since 1561 until nowadays. It's like if there would be, I'm not going to say nothing in Madrid before 16th century, but the history was concentrated here. And then history made a pause in Toledo And the history continued in Madrid. When the capital was moved to Madrid, there were here about 50,000 inhabitants. 50,000. Now, in the same section, the old town, no more than 10,000. Well, and we came here because this is the highest point of the city. Right, this small square. That's why, look at this building here on the left. Coming here to see it better. This building here was the palace. It used to be the palace. But it's called, still now, with the same name of the palace of the fortress you saw in Segovia, Alcázar. Alcázar means the palace. So there was first here a fortress built by the Romans. Another kind of fortress palace built by the Visigoths. Now we'll talk about the Visigoths. Then a palace built by the Muslims. And like this was built in the 16th century, 1500s, by the Emperor Charles V, the grandson of the Catholic monarchs. We'll talk about them also later on, Isabella and Ferdinand. And but actually was built by him, by Charles V, was used as palace by Charles V, but his son, Philip II, moved the capital to Madrid. So it was used as a royal palace for a short period of time. After that has been school, hospital. Now it's the library of this part of Spain, the fourth floor. When you go to study, to search for documents, the archives, the historical archives of the city are in the library. It's at the fourth floor. It's the library of Castilla-La Mancha. Spain is divided in 17 regions, like 17 states. This one is called like that, Castilla-La Mancha, because it was part of the old kingdom of Castile. Until the 15th century, there were different kingdoms in the peninsula. Isabel of the Catholic monarchs, Isabel of Castile. Ferdinand from Aragon, a kingdom below the Pyrenees. With their wedding, all those kingdoms became one. Became Spain together. Well, and so the name of the region, Castilla-La Mancha. And the man of La Mancha, you will see him everywhere, like at the entrance of that other building. It's a more modern representation of Don Quixote de La Mancha, the man of La Mancha. So La Mancha is really and space, a part of Spain, it starts at about 40 kilometers more south from here. That area is La Mancha, so this region called like that, Castilla-La Mancha. Toledo is the capital of the region. As I told you, in the old town there are about 10,000 inhabitants, but in total with the new city about 80,000, more or less. And so the library is at the top, and the rest of the building is the Museum of the Spanish Army. So actually, a few times the guides enter with the visitors to this place. It's important to know what it was, to be seen from the outside. Tomorrow, in the panoramic, from the other side of the river, where we stop to take some photos, you'll see that's a typical view of Toledo with two buildings, the tower of the cathedral and this building, the former palace. So we enter just with people especially interested on the history of the Spanish army. A little bit about the Civil War, but few more times. But important to know what it is this and what it was this building, the former palace. Well, we'll go now down this direction. We'll go to the main square. You saw it yesterday. Now we'll pass again by the main square of Toledo. Of course, the main square close to the palace. Well, as I was telling you, Toledo, a very old city. From that period, Bronze Age, only archaeological remains, because the oldest document where we can read something about the city is from the 2nd century BC, before Christ. So about 2,200 years ago, more or less. That was the year 192 BC. That first document was written by the Romans. In that document, Romans wrote that they arrived at this place, at this location. But that first document is useful also for us to know there was something or somebody else before they came, because they wrote on it. When we Romans arrived at this place, there was already a small village that was surrounded by walls, and we changed the name that people use for the village, and we call it Toletum, Toletum. That's the first name known for this city. The name that was written by the Romans, but the name came from another name, could be similar, but I didn't write which was that first name. And of the Romans, we have the name of the city, that was Toletum. Of the Romans, we have remains of a big circus for the horses and chariot races. It's estimated that about 15,000 people could enter into the Roman circus that on those times was here built. Also, there are remains of a theater, the Roman theater, a few stones of a bridge we'll see tomorrow, also a few stones of the aqueduct, and still, from time to time, appear below the streets pavement and sewers from that period of the Romans. Whenever they have to change pavement of the streets, or they have to open the streets to repair pipes or whatever, Toledo is a World Heritage Site. It's protected. So before any hole is opened, or when we see people working on the streets, there are 4 or 5 people there with the machines opening the street, and 1 or 2 just looking and taking photos. The archaeologist has to control, because it's very easy finding remains behind the walls or underground. So actually we'll see, for instance, in an hour or maybe less, one of those remains of the Romans that appear next to the mosque, or beside the mosque. Well, on that side of the building of the Alcázar, that's the entrance, that's in Spanish, Museo del Ejército, the Museum of the Army. That's it's so big museum, 5 floors, 21 rooms, about 6,000 pieces. Sometimes that's too much. Sometimes we have to explain it as well. Well, and the main square. Let's go to the center of the square.